Hello and welcome to the Scotland Rugby News podcast with me, your host, Bruce Aitchison from Happiness Egg-Shaped, and him, editor extraordinaire, the one, the only Gavin Harper. Hello, sir. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Interesting times as we get towards December 25th. Lots going on, lots to cram in. So let's not muck about team selections. You've obviously been getting a bit of chat. What's the word on the street?
Word on the street is Glasgow have got a lot of injuries and Edinburgh have gone basically full strength. I know I'm just looking at our social media. There's been plenty of comments about where's Hamish Watson from the Edinburgh team. I think now that's probably not as much of a surprise as it was 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. Look, I think Edinburgh's team looks as probably as good as they could have. They could have put, the injury to Paul Hill aside, it's as strong as they could have gone. Franco's had a bit of shuffling around of his pack, quite literally, to do. But look, they've got Kyle Steyn back, so it's set up to be a great game on Sunday. We're just saying before we came on air, the weather forecast is not the most promising for Hampden. That could be a factor. Look, there's loads of subplots to it. Musese against Sione, Kyle Steyn against Darcy Graham, there's loads and loads of them. Be here all day if we listed them. So yeah, it should be really interesting.
Here's a curveball for another day. Hamish Watson to Glasgow.
I mean, it's a funny one because in another different world, you could see it because Glasgow are so short. I don't know that anyone would be able to agree to that, given that his first game would then be against Edinburgh, who's played for 15 years. Now, look, I think it's unfortunate. I don't know. There is obviously something brewing. We're trying probably to get to the bottom of it like everybody else, but Sean Everett, wasn't asked today, but he has said in the past it's, Hamish isn't out the picture, so. We'll wait and see on that one. But Hamish Watson in a Warriors jersey, I'm not sure.
Well, we probably said the same about Ali Price and various others. But Darcy Ray getting a start, I have to admit, when I first looked at the team, I don't think Paul Hill's been there long enough for me to instantly go to, we were so used to seeing WP&L in games like this, listed at number 3. And when I first looked, I was like, oh, Darcy Ray getting a shot. Scottish, the trial, the Reds against the Blues, all that, probables against possible. He must be licking his lips for a crack at this.
Yeah, and he's actually played pretty well this season. I asked Sean Everett about him at the start of the week, and he said, it was last season was almost a kick up the backside for Darcy in that he wasn't able to get in the Edinburgh team ahead of Javan Sebastian. Now he seems to have made that leap where he's the second choice. His next thing, he's obviously earned another Scotland cap 5 years from his first. So his next thing will be, how can I get in front of Paul Hill and become first choice? Look, I think Edinburgh's scrum's been a success so far this season. It's how then, they manage that without Paul Hill. So huge opportunity for Darcy Ray. Tight head's not obviously a position. We've got loads of options. So if it goes well this week, he might be involved next week. But it's a chance. It's a huge chance to put himself in the shop window for the Six Nations.
Yeah, I hope he goes well. Staying in the front row. Statement from Franco. Jamie Batty above Suz.
I think that's probably been the way it's been for most of the season. I would say that Rory's probably one of those guys who's rotated into the team for the kind of lesser games, if you like. I actually think Jamie Batty's been in great form the last couple of weeks, both at the scrum, which I think he showed against Toulon, and in the game before that, Sale. Sorry, a complete mind blank there. He was brilliant ball in hand against Sale. So I think he deserves the opportunity. And I think he's another one that, Pierre's very much established himself as Scotland's number one, literally. If Jamie Batty has a good couple of weeks, he could be in the reckoning to be his kind of backup for the Six Nations.
Yeah, you'd have to say Pierre's probably got the tougher task scrimmaging against Xander, but that's for folk with far more knowledge than me to come up with there. It's not a shootout because there's players missing. Johnny Matthews against Ewan Ashman, different beasts, obviously, but and again we're back to what an opportunity for Johnny. Like what more can he possibly do? And I know this is but it's not a Scotland trial, but it's a Lions year, Six Nations, that it's so close to the Six Nations. Johnny Matthews playing at home, I know it's not home, but the home leg, Murrayfield probably is the same as Hampden. It's not the Hive, it's not really home. So it's almost like neutral venues for them. And Glasgow, I think Glasgow maybe have an advantage in that they're used to playing at Murrayfield. Every one of those boys will have played at Murrayfield. It's not strange to them. So there's opportunities for guys like Jamie Batty, Johnny Matthews, Darcy Ray to go, right, we've got 2 weeks of 2 games, of out and out opportunity.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, there's so many of these we've talked about before, the kind of subplots. Somebody like Johnny Matthews, as we spoke to him earlier in the week, probably does feel he sort of played it with a very straight bat when I asked him about Scotland.
A very media answer from Johnny Boy.
Yeah, it was, and I expected nothing less, but it would have been wrong if we didn't ask him. But I think, you look at that and say, do you know what? Go and put yourself in Gregor Townsend's thoughts, because there's actually, Paddy Harrison was in the Six Nations autumn squad. He's not involved. So Johnny he has to, if he plays well in these 2 games, assuming he's involved next week, which he probably is likely to be given Glasgow's injuries, he has to come into the thoughts. And
he might be playing the back row next week, though.
He might be playing in the backs. The way things are going, Glasgow are so thin on numbers. But yeah, look, there's loads of opportunities. Like I can't wait to see Sione against his brother. I think, look, Mosese, it's obviously a huge step up for Mosese. His brother's in the form of his life, but like just the idea of the 2 guys. Sione's apparently quite a talker when he's on the pitch, so I imagine they'll be throwing a fair bit between the 2 of them. And there's loads of them. Like, what a chance for somebody like Matt Curry to go against, Hugh Jones and Tui Pelotu and go and show what he can do. Similarly, Kyle Stein was absolutely flying before he got his injury, and everybody was talking him up as if, he was going to be a starter for Scotland ahead of Darcy or Duhan. They've taken their chances during the autumn. So now it's Kyle's opportunity again to go and show what he's all about. Josh Mackay's picked up a knock, so Kyle Rowe gets a go at fullback. Like, there's so much to it that we probably don't have time to unpack it all. But like, there are opportunities and there are matchups all over the pitch that you think, like, it's worth the ticket.
Yeah, well, like Matt Fagerson playing at open side, which is an interesting one. I mean, the Edinburgh back row, Richie, Crosby, Bradbury, if you look at on paper, and Edinburgh, we've always said, are very good on paper, against Ali Miller, Matt Fagerson, Jack Mann. Like, Jack Mann's got no pedigree because he's had the run that he's had. But now it's, right, son, there's the keys to the jersey. Go for it. And he's literally got nothing to lose. Ali Miller, nothing to lose. He's never considered as a Scotland player. He's a very strong professional. He's probably one that you wouldn't be looking at, right? If he does well, he'll get in the Scotland squad because there's so much competition. But that maybe gives him the freedom to just be Ali Miller, which is a very, very strong performer, a consistent 8 out of 10 every week performer. And then you got that back row. Jamie needs to stick his hand up. Crosby needs to stick his hand up. Maggie is desperate to stick his hand up and feels like he is. So that back row battle, it's, you know, Glasgow, I need to stop doing this. I've been trying to give myself a shake when I've been driving this week saying, why do I keep not giving Glasgow the fair crack? I thought they were in for a sore one at Toulon, and then they do what they do. The Sale, they put that performance in victory. They just keep going. They've learned how to do it.
But I think that's it. I think now, like we talked this very briefly before we came on about Glasgow have got 3 hookers on the bench, and we talked a couple of weeks ago about them doing this against the Scarlets. And like, this obviously wasn't the plan. Franco's a man with a plan for every occasion. This was definitely not part of it. But the fact he's done it in a URC game against a team, and I don't mean this to be disparaging about Edinburgh, but probably about the same, you know, Scarlets will be in and amongst that battle for the sort of 6, 7 and 8. It must give Franco so much faith that these guys in a bigger occasion can go and then deliver the same 7, 8 out of 10 level of performance. I think the problem, certainly in the first chunk of the season with Edinburgh, was they were delivering 6s and 7s, but then you look at like the Lions game, for example, and they were delivering 2s and 3s out of 10. So they seem to have found a wee bit more consistency, but clearly for them, continuity is the key, whereas Franco's, you know, been forced into making changes, but he clearly has the trust that all of these guys can go and do a job.
And, you know, Tom Jordan is playing out of position. URC winning standoff is playing out of position at standoff because he's a Scotland fullback and he's a centre who, like, that's a bit of, you know, George Horn probably in the last few weeks has made him say, right, he's going to start at 9 because of how he's gone with that outstanding performance. Like, right, you're in against Edinburgh, but you've still got Dobie to come on or potentially come on for Cancel the Air on the wing. Dunky Weir will come on. I think Dunky Weir actually played in the first 1872 game in 1872. Is that right? So it's quite a circle for him to close off at Hampden potentially. But I'm intrigued by this. I really am intrigued by this because that Glasgow team isn't the Glasgow team that has been performing the consistent level. But then no team he picked is, because it's not been a consistent team. He's rotated so much. Like, how on earth do you tell?
Yeah, and that's it. But if you look at, you know, Richie Gray goes away, so there Jarry gets his opportunity. Now he's injured, and it's you know.
Gregor Brown must be licking his lips because there's
exactly. So there's
the article on Scotland Rugby News saying that Johnny Gray's injured and not going to be Six Nations. So now Gregor Brown's going, right, come on, Marshall, let's be having you.
Yeah, exactly, and that's another one. You know, people look at the Grant Gilchrist against Scott Cummings or Luke Crosby against Matt Fagerson, but actually the Gregor Brown against Marshall Sykes or the Johnny Matthews against Ewan Ashman, or like every single player that takes to the field on Sunday afternoon has so much to play for from a collective point of view, but then also from a personal point of view. You know, there are so, and it's so close to the Six Nations. It feels miles away on the 20th of December, but it actually also, you know, in less than a month, we'll have the squad for the Six Nations. So there's only probably one European game for Gregor to consider outside of what's gone since the autumn and these 2 games. So yeah, they really are massive.
The Edinburgh European games against Black Lion, you know, and in Edinburgh. Now, here's my ignorance coming, you know, but Cocker's coming back, you know, Black Lion with an opportunity to go, hang on, let's upset this lot. We've been here before, literally, they've played before in that, whatever that game was, but it's a chance for them to say, right, let's have a crack at this. but potentially Gilco doesn't. I don't know. It depends what the European picture looks like. Edinburgh now are maybe thinking, actually, we need to go full Buna at this, and that might mean Sam Skinner starts rather than Marshall. So has Sam Skinner played enough for Gregor to include him? So there are questions all over, and guys like us can chew the fat for as long as we like, and we're never going to know what Gregor and DL and Pete Horn and Tandy are thinking. But there's stories right the way through. We're almost ignoring Wes Houston, who is, I think, player of the year last year, but I think he's performed better in this half than he did
I agree.
last year. You got Sebastian Cassier, who they're the only ones really that we've got nothing to say, because they're not going to get picked in the Scotland squad.
If only we had that luxury.
Kyle Steyn being on the left wing, even, I find quite interesting. Has he been picked there because he's against Darcy, or because he's played for Scotland on the right wing, because Duhan has pretty much had number 11 and not been injured. So Darcy has played 14 but been injured, and Kyle Steyn has played 14. Kyle Rose at fullback, does that take him out of that direct competition of being on the wing? These are nice problems to have for Gregor and for us to fill in podcast time by chatting about it.
Totally, but these are the things that make these games now. These games have always been the sort of pseudo trial, if you like. The probables against the possibles, or whatever. The Reds against the Blues, but actually the level of quality on the pitch, and I hope I'm not jinxing this, because as I said at the start, the weather forecast is dreadful, but the quality of the rugby on the pitch in the last couple of years has been significantly increased from when these 1872 games started back again, probably about 10 years ago. So it's a fascinating game. I think both teams can ill afford to lose for very different reasons. I think the league points are arguably as important as they've been in the last few years. I think a win for Edinburgh, 2 wins for Edinburgh over the next couple of weeks, but a win away from home would be a massive thing for Edinburgh. If Glasgow can come through all these injuries and win, they'll be, they're sitting pretty in second, and they'll be pushing Leinster all the way.
Yeah, because it's back to back. Glasgow are not all of a sudden going to add 6 boys returning from injury in that period. Edinburgh are not going to be far away from those 23 players being recycled next week. I don't. Muncaster potentially starts. Sam Skinner potentially starts, but I don't really see a change to the starting 15. There might be rotation on the bench. I'm not really sure. I've not looked at the injury list and who might be returning, but that Edinburgh 23 is unlikely to see any sort of significant change. We've not mentioned Edinburgh's 9 and 10. Ali Price, I think, is probably done with Scotland. But his performances have suggested, well, maybe he's not. But from the planning and the way things have been shaped, it looks like he's maybe done. Ross Thompson, right, Finn's number 10, we know that. So what does Ross Thompson have to do when Tom Jordan can wear 10, 12, 15 and potentially 13 and to a high level? So does Ross Thompson have to absolutely outplay and command the whole thing and kick 100% for him to be considered as the second choice 10 with Adam Hastings out injured?
Yes, I think
it's a big ask for Ross.
Yeah, but look, the two of them are going to be guys who, Ross and Ali and Darcy Ray to maybe a lesser extent because he's been away for a while, but Like, these are guys who've played an awful lot of games for Glasgow and been through an awful lot for the cause of Glasgow Warriors. So they will have points to prove on Sunday because they were deemed surplus to requirements at various stages. I think you're probably right that Ali looks like he's way down the pecking order now in terms of scrum halves. But with Ben White injured, you start saying, well, does that open the door again for Ali to fill a Six Nations spot? But ultimately, for Edinburgh to win, I think on Sunday, they have to show a degree of control that they've not for a lot of the season. I think Ali and Ross have, when Edinburgh have gone well, the halfbacks have really, really clicked and they've controlled games and they've squeezed teams. And I think if Edinburgh are going to win at Hampden, they need their halfbacks to suss out the surface in terms of the kicking. So, get a grip of the wind and what will be a new stadium for them and really control the game. Because I think if Edinburgh do to Glasgow what Bayonne did to Edinburgh last week and kick poorly and give Glasgow counter-attacking chances, Glasgow have got the players that could potentially do a fair bit of damage. So similarly, I think if Glasgow get that wrong, if Glasgow kick a lot less than a lot of teams, but particularly in Edinburgh, I think if Glasgow opt to go to the air and get it wrong, Edinburgh showed their counter-attacks at a level now that they could do some damage with Duhan and getting Darcy on the ball.
Yeah, I'm struggling to see really top class kicking threat in that Glasgow team.
Yeah.
So they're going to play. I mean, you mentioned it probably as the first matchup because there's everything's a matchup. But to see how 12 and 13 go against each other, like I always found it weird. I did play against my brother once. It was the best sidestep I've ever done in my life because I thought he was going to kill me. But to play against your close mates, I always found a strange one. Although I never shut up, I was never really one for winding folk up because I wasn't good enough to wind folk up. But to play directly against your brother, like not even like, oh, I'm on the wing and he's in the back, like directly against them is weird. But for Curry to go against Jones, I think's class. I'm really looking forward to that. I mean, Hugh Jones, since he's come back up the road, just looks happy, mature, quick, agile, strong, confident, developed a relationship with Sione. Like people are talking about him as a lion. And, I think, was it Danny Kerr was on about how good he thinks Hugh Jones is. Curry's got that. I think Curry's got that ability in him and potential in him. It's having the supply to show it is the challenge that's out with his control.
Totally. And I think Edinburgh have got to, if Edinburgh can get a platform up front, and Edinburgh's set piece has been pretty good this season, so I think a lot of it hinges on how they cope without Paul Hill. But if Edinburgh can get a platform up front, somebody like Curry has got a bit about him that could cause Glasgow issues. I think the defining factors will be, can Musese get them gain line against his brother? Because we know when Glasgow have got the ball, like Sione's giving you that. And it might be his brother he has to run through. It might be that he has to run through Ross Thompson, but he is likely to sit somebody down and get over the gain line. And from there, Glasgow can play.
That first ball carry from either of the two incredible. It's going to be a yeehaw moment. Either way, somebody's either carrying and getting the better, or somebody's putting in a king hit that makes everybody stand up and go, "Oh, game on!" I don't think there's going to be a tackle of head in the right place, cheek to cheek. That's not happening in a Tuapolotu against Tuapolotu challenge. It's it's going to be pretty. Now we're talking pretty immature rugby here, but there's times where that's the best rugby to watch.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, there have been times recently where I think you have seen elements of that, probably from Sione, where he's just gone, nah, do you know what? I'm going straight over the top of somebody. He did it for Glasgow against Cardiff. He did it against, he sat Henry Pollard down against South Africa. Like, he will want to just go route one from A to B against his brother. And that could, depending on how early that comes, that could set the tone for the whole thing. I think the one thing that concerns me is the weather here's not that great. It's quite wet. And there's football on at Hampden. Queen's Park are playing at Hampden tonight. And I just hope that the football pitch holds up and that we get decent scrums, and because nobody can play if you've got scrums that are collapsing every 30 seconds.
Yeah, it still cracks me up that Queen's Park get to, like, it's such a, but Edinburgh Wanderers used to get to play on the big pitch at Murrayfield for a long time. It's I think we just got to get there. I think we all just need to see what this looks like. I don't know if it will make the Murrayfield leg any easier. I noticed that Dewey gets his 100th appearance for Edinburgh against Glasgow. And he's been a consistent, he's not suffered too many injuries, Dewey. He's been, he's racked up a lot of appearances, and considering he's a Scotland superstar, British Lion.
Yeah.
It's not like Bundy or Sam Warburton, who have been wrapped up in cotton wool by their unions. I think Warburton played more games for Wales than he did for Cardiff.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Whereas Dewey's about to hit 100.
Yeah, and considering he also had a year away.
He is a winger, right enough, and Sam Warburton was a bit closer to the action than Duhan.
Yeah, that was
not the right comparison.
Aye. Bundy Aki, who is head in the spokes at every occasion, and Sam Warburton, who put his body through.
Duhan's got great hair. I mean, great hair. He's taken a lot of it off.
He could have shared some of it about.
Well, I'm not sure how I would look with a Duhan. I keep telling folk, when I win the lottery, when I get the Euro Millions and I go to Turkey to get my teeth done, I'm also coming back with Bradley Cooper in The Hangover here. That's the idol. That's the idol.
A lot of people would pay a lot of money to see that.
Well, I might start a crowd fund. It's either Bradley Cooper in The Hangover or Brad Pitt in Ocean's 11. I'll wait until I win the Euro Millions and then I'll decide. I'll probably have to flip a Turkish coin when I get there.
It's a nice problem to have, that, wouldn't it?
It will be. I'm not sure what I do about this, because this is not exactly Bradley Cooper or Brad Pitt, but the hair will be immense.
It would be saved. It would be saved. The rest would be saved by the hair and the teeth. Yeah. We've digressed incredibly here. What were we talking about?
Christmas Strictly.
Definitely not.
Was it not? Okay.
No, that must have been another podcast you were on.
Yeah, I'm still waiting. No, look, Duhan playing 100. It'll be interesting to see. I'm always, because I've got that romance in my head, I always kind of like it when milestones are met with, making the whole day happy. I would imagine Glasgow couldn't care less how many games Duhan has got. I see Fraser Brown's getting to do the ball presentation, which I also think is quite a cool thing, considering, he started at Edinburgh, played Scotland Sevens, played Scotland, played for Glasgow. And what a boy! And now coaching the women, the future's pretty. I'm not sure bright, but there's a lot there for Fraser to go and achieve as a coach.
Totally.
And he's had his challenges. He didn't go about. He was on a sort of really structured path, step by step, and then throwing a curveball and away he went and played at Heriots. And I'm really chuffed for him, and I hope he gets a massive ovation from everybody for that, and I hope he enjoys it.
and I'm sure he will. I'm sure that and look, I can't wait. Genuinely, I'm really looking forward to seeing Hampden with 25,000 in it and possibly more. With how Glasgow are going to set it up, I think it all makes for a great day. I spoke to Al Kellick during the week. He's understandably absolutely buzzing for it, but he said that it's the next step in the club's kind of evolution, if you like. And I think
Big Al will be taking all the credit.
No, Big Al was passing on all the credit to basically
was he? Okay.
anyone else who they were all in the room at the time, but to all of Glasgow's operations staff, to all the off-field folk for turning
he's
their
not a
fund
bad
in.
lad.
So, look, they have put in a mountain of work. Edinburgh have made a success of playing the 1872 in the big stadium at Murrayfield. I really hope that
am I right in saying they needed, there was a sort of bar for them to make money, but they've exceeded that by quite a long way.
Yeah, they're miles past that now. They're miles. And I think being able to say, like, before the public sale of tickets, they were already beyond the capacity of Scotstoun, through season ticket holders taking up their allocation and whatever else. Like, that's a massive boost. And then they've just far exceeded, I think, everybody's expectations, to be honest. I didn't think we would be sitting talking about 25,000 with the potential of, if Glasgow get 28,000 and they can say it's 4 times the number that they get at Scotstoun, that's, for year one, I think that feels like a big achievement.
Yeah, it'd be class. I think it's really good. I'm delighted. I'm really, really chuffed, because there's always the naysayers who are desperate for it to fall on its backside. I think it's brilliant. I thought it was a kind of brave thing to do. We're probably, both teams are stuck in the really wee stadium now. Both clubs could probably have slightly bigger for just run-of-the-mill URC games. But Murrayfield and Hampden are just that bit massive. It's almost, we could do an in between. To have possibly, let's just 28,000 and then Edinburgh having, 38,000 in a 40-seater stadium would be class.
Yeah,
would be absolutely magic. But Tynecastle and Easter Road are not that. Yeah. Ibrox and Celtic Park, you're back into that. It's probably too big again.
Yeah, and I think that's the frustration from me, certainly, is that if you were looking at when Edinburgh started to build the Hive, it felt small, and yes, it was bigger than the crowds that they were getting at the time at Murrayfield, but you improve the fan experience, therefore you're going to get more people in the door, and we're now 4 or 5 years into the Hive, and it feels like we're saying already it's too small. It's Edinburgh should be targeting, for example, 10,000. Glasgow have said for a long time they want to develop Scotstoun. There's obviously issues with that, but Edinburgh had an opportunity there when they built the Hive to say, do you know what, we'll go make this a bit bigger. And
is it not been built in such a way though that it can have more added to it?
I think it can, and I think, look, ultimately, if Glasgow get big crowds, there's definitely a discussion there to be had about developing, a redevelopment of Scotstoun. Just very quickly, Cammy Little, free tickets for schools to fill the place. I actually think at this stage, that's a great initiative.
No, it's not, because the school's finished at lunchtime a day. But Cammy Little, if I had my hat on, I'd take it off to Cammy Little. Cammy Little, Mr. Moffat Rugby, the Bakers, Little's Bakers in Moffat, outstanding. Everything you could possibly want from a Bakers, you get at Little's, and it's got the best ingredient of all: love. What a Bakers.
Are we finished with the Little's Bakers ad? I mean, to be fair,
I'm just hoping Cammy's now going to stick a few sausage rolls in the post, and he's got my postcode and my address. So, Cammy, you just make sure you get that sorted, my man. Moffat Rugby Club, what a place. Now, you're bang on, because both Murrayfield and Hampden, what you could be saying is, right, the end stand behind the goal is the schools, and there you go. There's as many as you. We're going to give every one of those tickets away to schools in the hope that half of them come, and it's a riot. Get the kids in, get them excited. And I'm glad you mentioned the fan experience at the Hive, big fella, because I think the fan experience at the Hive is outstanding. I think the way it is laid on for those supporters and the encouragement they get for the announcer, who
it's brilliant.
I'm not sure if there's a URC announcer of the season award, but I'm pretty sure that guy at the Hive is in the running for that.
Along with
has been for, I think, the last 6 seasons. So this, I think, is the 7th season that the announcer at the Hive or at Edinburgh Rugby has been up there with a shout. So you're right. The fan experience is 5-star on TripAdvisor. I was just reading the one review that's been posted there.
Does it say where that review's come from?
It was from the Davidson Mains area in Edinburgh. That's all I know.
Right. I think that explains a lot. I think that's interesting. I think that, sitting in front of the guy who does the announcing at Edinburgh, it feels like sitting next to another commentator, but never mind. Each to their own. He likes
to sound his own voice. He's a pretty confident chap. Sometimes I think he needs to pipe down. But anyway, we digress, as you say. Let's get back to Strictly, because it's the Christmas special on Saturday night, big fella. That's why the 1872 is on the Sunday, so that we can all be at home for Strictly on Saturday night, which I think is very considerate of Big Al and the operations team at Warriors. So I tip my hat to you, Big Al. Thanks for that, pal.
You're doing a lot of.
I love it when I silence you. I love it when I silence you. It's just the joy.
It takes a lot, but you've between your advert for Cammy's Bakery and your hat tipping about Strictly, the last 5 minutes has just been
joyful. But there's a competition. If we sign up to Scotland Rugby News, there's a competition. What can we win?
Oh, you want me to tell you? You can win a signed.
I want you to tell me.
A signed Edinburgh jersey or a signed Glasgow Warriors jersey. So if you sign up to Scotland Rugby News, you'll be entered into the chance to win a jersey. So yeah,
yes,
£18,
get involved.
£18 for the year, £4 for 4 months.
And what he didn't tell you was the Edinburgh jersey's been signed by me and the Glasgow jersey's been signed by him. But great chance to win. Great chance to win.
Terms and conditions apply. I can confirm the Edinburgh jersey and the Glasgow jersey have not been defaced by our signatures.
So they've been signed by the squad. So get involved, sign up, Scotland Rugby News. You heard the man. £4, 4 months offer, 18 for the year. Get involved. Scotland Rugby News is where it's at. Big fella, enjoy. I might see you at Hampden on Sunday if we didn't get blown away. And I hope it's a goodie. Just quickly, who's going to win?
I'm going to say it'll be closer than people think, but Glasgow by a score.
Do you know someone? We've hardly ever, even though Glasgow are flying, we've hardly ever predicted really confidently Glasgow wins. Aye. Okay, well done. Glasgow. I like it. Glasgow and close. I'll take that.
Glasgow but close, and
there's going to be cards. I reckon there's going to be cards.
It is Christmas.
Yes. We've not even got to cracker jokes yet, and you have but that was genius.
Yeah,
that was,
thanks very
and
much.
Guaranteed, if Rory's commentating on Sunday, he will steal that gag. He is going to steal that gag. I reckon we need to finish there. I don't think you should add anything to that. I think that is the gag to finish on. I am gutted it came for you, but well played.
If I had a mic, I would drop it.
Genius. Well, you can just turn off the stream. Big fella, loved it. Enjoy Sunday. I'll see you there, and then we can. We might reconvene on Monday for a little review, will we?
I think so. I think if you're available, then we will be back here on Monday to discuss the first game.
Nice, and hopefully others will join us too. Right, big fella, good to see you. He's Gav Harper from Scotland Rugby News. I'm Bruce Aitchison for Happy and Seg Shape. Enjoy your weekend. See you on Sunday at Hampden Park.